Hey everybody, how's it going? Charlie Morgan here and welcome to another video. So today we're going to talk about energy, fatigue, ruts, troughs, peaks, whatever you want to call it. Basically what to do and one of the best ways of pulling yourself out of a period or prolonged length of laziness or just not really doing any work. This happens to the best of us, it happens to all of us, right? Where you go through periods of extreme discipline and then suddenly you fall off and you sort of struggle to pick yourself out of the soil. This happens to me a lot, it happens to my business partner a lot. We're all human beings and we all go through periods of regression or what might feel like regression. So how do we actually fix this problem? The easiest way I found to fix this problem is to understand what Nietzsche meant when he said that he who has a why can bear almost any how. That basically translates to saying that if you want to do hard work, you need to have a fucking good reason to do it. And that reason often is not just saying you want to make money is seldom enough of a reason for you to actually feel motivated or like you can conjure up the discipline to put yourself through the trials and tribulations and pains of actually doing the work. So let's explore this briefly. It's not going to be a long video, but I want to touch base with this because it's a problem that I see a lot of clients running into. What happens with a lot of my clients, for those of you who don't know who I am, I help agency owners build and scale agencies and other high ticket businesses as well, and we basically install acquisition systems. However, what happens is we provide acquisition systems that work incredibly well, clients run them out, and then after about a few months or so, they scale to their goal of 10, 20, 30K a month, but then they can't be bothered to do anything else. And they come to me and they're like, Charlie, what the fuck's going on? Like, I've got these systems, I know what I need to do to get the goal, I just can't seem to do it. Like, what the hell is happening? So the problem is we have these things in psychology. I've coined this term called drive vacuums, right? A drive vacuum is basically an unconscious desire to fulfill a need subconsciously, psychologically, that we don't have in childhood or as we grow up. And so into adulthood, the adult becomes the person that takes care of the child that we were. So if you were growing up, and let's say you're a man, and growing up you had no success with women, like you had nothing sort of going for you with women, and you always struggled and got rejected and got like sort of turned in on yourself, and you just didn't get any success with women, right? What would happen if you progress into adulthood as a young man is you might like be motivated to acquire funds and money, but what happens is like you might think you want the money, but what you really want underneath that, and the vacuum, the drive vacuum that you're trying to fill, is actually the female attention, right? And the approval of a mate or something similar. So this happened to me, for full transparency, when I was growing up, when I was through my teenage years and stuff. I didn't have much success with women. Any of my friends watching this will probably know that's true, although I didn't have many friends in secondary school, and which is the equivalent of high school. And so a lot of my motivation to build businesses and make good amounts of money, like 10, 20, 30K a month, was so that I could get the attention of women. I'm not even ashamed to admit that at this point. It was my main motivation for building a business, was to look successful and have enough money that I thought I could go to girls and be like, hey, and it works, right? It does actually work, surprise, surprise. But trust me when I say that the females you tend to attract, the women you can attract just by flashing off like expensive shit and having lots of money and taking them to cool places, you tend to attract the wrong sort of people. Fortunately enough, my partner, my girlfriend at the moment, is incredible. She doesn't really care too much for that, and I've been able to tame the child within and overcome that problem, but that's a personal story for another day. So my point here, the reason you fall into a rut once you actually achieve some success is because you lose your why. Right? So if your drive vacuum, if your real sort of unconscious childish motivation, or it's often like a lack of something, right? It's an anxiety or a fear, or you're lacking something as you grow up and you need to, fulfill that into your adulthood, and that is then projected onto the financial income goal. I want to make 10 grand a month. Well, why? It's like, oh, because I want to provide for my family. Why? Because I didn't have a father to do that when I was growing up. Right, that's like the sort of the way it works, right? And there's no shame in admitting these childish fears and how they run us, because it's the subconscious and it's the way the human brain works. You only have to, study Freud to understand that the adult is to provide for the child that you were. However, what happens is once you achieve the success that fulfills this drive vacuum, it sucks out any sort of, like, once you've got the money to get the girl, or once you've built the business to provide for your family, or take care of this thing, or do this thing, or fulfill this fear, or whatever it might be, what happens is you lose the subconscious drive. You lose that driving force that was pushing you to grow. Then what happens is you start to think you've got something wrong with you, because you're like, I've got these, I could make as much money as I want, but why I don't want to do any work? Why don't I want to do any work? Well, it's because simply what's happened is the motivation that you had, the really powerful unconscious drives that were pushing you towards your goal and the action towards that goal, have been basically stripped them of yourself because you've sort of fulfilled it. So what this means is that once you've hit this point, once you've got to your six figures or your multi-six figures in income, and you've fulfilled whatever childish desire or dream or fear or anxiety or worry or concern that you were fostering as you were growing up, once you've done that, you need to prepare yourself for the lack of motivation. And the way we fix this is through meditation, of thinking about a bit of a stronger purpose, right? Because this happened to me as soon as I bought, I moved into like this awesome flat, I bought this awesome car, I got this girlfriend, she's amazing. Say it like this, girlfriend. I got my girlfriend, she's incredible, love her to bits. And I got all these things that I'd always wanted, right? And then I was like, oh, cool. And then the same thing happened with like fitness. Like I achieved this body that I was comfortable with because I was always skinny growing up, didn't have any female attention, and then I had it, and then I was like, oh, and then I plateaued in the gym. So like you have to then recognize this is going to happen. First of all, like once you hit a goal, a financial goal, and you fulfill the unconscious drive, you are going to fall off into a rut, or what you will perceive to be a rut, and it's because you haven't got the fire underneath you. So once this happens, you have to start considering higher purpose. And if you want to work, you need to give your brain and your unconscious not necessarily another childish drive to try and fulfill, but instead a purer purpose. You need to become like sort of more of a mission-led entrepreneur. And I don't mean this because conjuring up a mission and thinking about a way in which you can change the world is quite an intimidating task, and not everybody actually wants to become like a visionary for a huge company. But if you want to continue to grow as a human and develop as an individual, which you probably will because it becomes quite addictive once you've seen some level of success, then it's absolutely necessary for you to explore other purposes. So for those of you wondering, I'm doing this with Imperium Agency right now. Which is my coaching business that helps marketing agency owners and other high-ticket people get more clients. And like I've had long discussions with my business partner about like what we're actually doing, because we're in the position now where we're in multi-seven figures and we can keep growing and growing and growing, but it's like, why? Like just growing for the sake of growing it? Like what's the point? What's the mission? Why are we doing this? And I'm not going to divulge that here because it's actually personal to me and my business partner, but we've been able to develop a vision for the future for ourselves and what we want to actually achieve through the business for ourselves personally. And it doesn't, the mission doesn't have anything to do with like reversing climate change or solving world hunger or educating humanity, although those are problems that I would quite like to solve. But the mission at the moment is for us to, build personal security to the point at which we can then proceed to become mission-led entrepreneurs without fear of losing anything personally. So the way I've sort of navigated this, because it's something I've had to navigate recently, is by like recognizing that my current business is changing lives, right? So every time we sign a client, we change someone's life because our program is insane and it actually helps people get results. And that feels good. That feels much better than making money, I can tell you that. However, I also have come to terms with the fact that the business I've got at the moment, one of the main reasons we run it is so that we can build security and also so we can learn skills, right? So my partner and I are learning how to build 8-figure businesses with extremely high profit margins, and those skills and the skills of management and hiring and sales and marketing and brand building, all of those skills will become, will help us become full stack entrepreneurs, so that when we do want to solve a massive problem in the world, we have the skills to do it. But not only the skills from having run the business before, we also are able to rely on a cash flow business that provides for us personally, and then we can proceed to take extremely large risks, or build companies that don't make any money in the short term, but in the long term have a huge impact on society. Because I was looking at my coaching business and I was thinking, how can we turn this into a huge mission-led sort of business? And I realized that you can't take like a marketing agency and change the world with a marketing agency. The model does not allow for enough scale for that to simply happen. Now you can have localized impact, right? So for example, with our gym agency, with NorthFlow Consulting, like one of the knock-on effects of our work is we're able to introduce, thousands of people a month to fitness, probably more than that, tens of thousands of people a month to fitness and health that otherwise would not have been introduced to that. And we do that through our marketing work. And that feels good. But it's still not like enough for us to feel like we're having a huge impact. We want to create businesses that can completely transform the lives of billions of people and solve huge painful problems and eliminate suffering. And so I'll leave you with this in closing. What you want to do and recognize is that the purest form of motivation and responsibility you can have that can drive your work ethic and pull you out of this rut is a sense of responsibility for other people, right? Because there's a chapter in Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, which is treat yourself as if you're someone responsible taken care of. It's a very hard thing to do because you know your flaws, you know what you've done, you know what bad shit you've done in your life, you know that you don't what you deserve and what you don't deserve, and you know all this shit. So if you want to pull yourself out of a rut, you have to work not for yourself, but for other people. So if you're at the point now where you're like me and you're young and you've got money and you don't really know what else to do, like the best thing to do is start thinking about like your future family. So I'm now building a company and building personal fortune so that I know that when I have a family and when I have a wife and children, they're set, right? And their futures are taken care of for years to come. And I'm taking responsibility for people that like the kids that I don't even have yet. But what that allows me to do is it allows me to remove the personal side of it. And then because I remove the personal side of it, I don't self-sabotage, because I'm not going to self-sabotage a business and a line of work that by sabotaging that would ruin the lives of my kids or future kids. And it's the same thing for why you're in business. If you're in business for your clients and not yourself, then if you sabotage the business, you're sabotaging other people who have paid you and you probably like. You don't do that. But if you're working purely for self-credit and for self-purpose and you're only in your personal interest, you're always going to self-sabotage because, well, you know yourself better than anyone else and you know why you may not deserve to have what you want. So you have to work for other people. So if you're in this rut, if you've got this rut of comfort or complacency and you feel like you need to work more and you're trying to figure out what the problem is, you have to transcend your motivations. You have to recognize that you've probably successfully fulfilled the childhood drive vacuum that you were working for without knowing about it. For example, most people start businesses out of anger or hate or jealousy, right? And these are all emotions. If we took them apart and pulled them to threads, we'd see exactly like the childish, insecure kids that we actually are as adults. It's just normal. That's how we work. Unless you had like the perfect childhood, which doesn't exist, you're always going to have these problems. Recognize that you've probably filled that, and if you haven't filled that yet, you're going to fill it, right? Because those drives are fucking powerful, right? So when you fill it, you'll fall into this rut, this state. You'll go through periods of discipline, and then you'll fall into laziness. And recognize the easiest and fastest way to pull yourself out of that rut is to build a company that transcends your personal motives and genuinely helps other people. Remove the self-interest, and in doing so, the knock-on effect of doing that is you will actually continue to be motivated to work, because the strongest form of meaning in life is to take responsibility for someone else's suffering and alleviate that suffering. And I don't think anything could be possibly more meaningful than getting to 85 or 90 on your deathbed and looking back and thinking, you know what, I have removed a lot of suffering for a lot of people. I think that would probably be the most meaningful thing that you could probably do, is to look at a problem, look at pain, and remove that pain from from people's lives. Because we all know what pain's like and we don't like it. And if we can make businesses and build businesses that alleviate pain and suffering from people that we care about, or a group of people that we care about on a big macro level or a micro level like your family, then boy, oh boy, you're going to work, because you've got a moral responsibility for other humans as a human. So that's basically today's video. I didn't really have a plan sitting down to articulate this. I just sort of had this idea, and sometimes shit just unfolds. It doesn't feel like I've been sat here for 15 minutes, I tell you that. But this is just food for thought. If you are in a rut and you're struggling to figure out why you keep going through these periods of self-sabotage, then start to figure out how to work for other people, right? Not in the sense of going to get a job and getting a boss and working for a boss, but I mean, figure out how your business can become a vehicle for the alleviation of suffering about people that you care about. Okay, that's how it works. That's everything for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. That's everything from me. I said that really quickly. If you did enjoy the video, just subscribe. If you want to, you can like the video and also comment if you have any other suggestions. And if you're curious about how I could help you grow your business, there is going to be a link in the description. It's a funnel. There's no bullshit. It's designed to get you to book a discovery call with a member of my team to see if we can sell you something. There's no fucking bullshit there. But it might help you change your life, and that's exactly why we built it. So I will look forward to potentially seeing you in our program. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.